Aitah for telling my boyfriend how I felt. Edit making this shorter changing the order BC it was too long before. TLDR feeling unreciprocated and like he does not listen to my needs in relationship. He is not paying for as many dates anymore doing small things for me just because like he used to. I was okay with going 5,050 on expenses but ended up paying more and he wasn't helping with chores cooking. He recently got laid off but has enough money to be traveling with his friends. Wondering if my expectations are too high, am I asking for too much? For context, my 26F boyfriend 27M was laid off from his software engineering job a few months ago. However, after he was laid off he has been going on a lot of trips traveling with his friends in general. When I last visited him, we did 5,050 for all the dates. He told me he's having financial issues paying for his apartment, bills and car. I am trying to be understanding because I live with my parents and don't have a car. I still pay for all my other expenses but don't have to pay rent a car payment. That would change if I move out. We always have been splitting my travel to him. We are long distance, but before when he was working he would pay for slightly more dates. He lives by himself but whenever I visit him, usually 2 weeks at a time, I always end up doing majority of the housework, cooking, cleaning. It's mostly because he doesn't keep things clean organized and I don't like staying in a dirty environment. I feel like in general I have to ask him multiple times if I need a favor or for something to get done. He had lost power in his apartment from a hurricane while I was staying with him, and I asked if he could check if we can spend the night at his friend's place as I did not want to sleep in 100-degree weather without AC. He refused until I told him I would get myself a hotel and stay separate from him since he wouldn't want to split the room with me either when I asked. Only after I said I'll stay separate and get a hotel for myself he checked with his friend and we were able to spend the night at his friend's place until he got power back. He also argued with me how he wanted to take turns for us paying for things. I agreed to take turns, but then I brought up how it felt unfair because I paid 50 for a dinner when it was my turn, but when it was his turn we went to a place that was cheaper and he only had to pay 20 for us. I asked if we could just do 5,050 each time at each date so it would be more fair instead of taking turns. To which he argued he didn't want to do and that most couples apparently take turns according to him, which maybe a lot do, but I know every couple has a different dynamic. We also argued because one morning I paid almost 50 for us to get brunch. Right after, we stopped at a thrift store I wanted to check out. He was with me in the store and when I was purchasing my items. The total came to like 13, which he was next to me in the store while I paid. After I told him how I felt like he should have paid for me, especially because I paid for our food before. I mentioned how in the beginning he used to do these things for me without me having to ask him, like pay for a small gift here and there, etc. However, since he is unemployed currently, I don't know if that is too much for me to ask, but it would have made me feel appreciated. Back when he was paying a bit more for the dates, I didn't mind cleaning his place, cooking for him, doing chores, and overall felt a bit better in the relationship, but we would still argue because I felt like I was doing a great majority of the work, him paying for dates here and there didn't feel like it equated to that. For more context, we used to live together. I was making 55K a year and he was making 120K a year, but we split the rent and bills 5050 for the apartment. I was Venmoing him 1,000 a month. I told him how it felt like a pretty big percentage of my income compared to him, so it would be nice if he paid for dates more, which he did. One thing I didn't know before living with him was how heavy of a smoker he was. He smokes 5 times a day. I work in the healthcare field and had COVID 3 times within the same year. So I told him how my lungs were bad and asked if he could smoke outside. He refused and I would always be breathing his secondhand smoke. I ended up becoming very sick and getting severe bronchitis. My health was really bad living with him and I had trouble keeping up with chores, was coughing for 6 months. It really hurt me that he knew I was having health issues but he still kept doing it, even after I asked him so many times to stop. It was also concerning for me because I feel like it's substance abuse since he is smoking, like he can't handle life sober. I am a completely sober person, no drugs and barely alcohol. There were so many times I felt like I was talking to a wall and his head was somewhere else from him being high all the time. After moving out back home, my health improved and symptoms went away. He still blamed me for not doing chores while we lived together. He had more expectations for me to cook and clean because he was paying for slightly more dates things, even though I was also working full-time like him. I would split groceries 5,050 with him, which he would always end up eating the majority of because he worked from home while I had to go into the office. There were many times he ate the lunches I kept to bring to work, so I would have to order food outside while I was at work. I expressed how this felt unfair. I also spent about $400 when I moved in with him buying decorations, cookware, cleaning supplies and dishes. He was living alone in a different apartment previously but didn't have a lot of the basics needed for cooking. He barely cooks. He mostly orders food. I didn't ask him to split that with me. So while overall I would say he would spend an average of $300 on me a month for dates and small gifts, I didn't really feel like it was anything significant that I wasn't reciprocating. It was my first time moving out and I moved to his city, away from my friends and family. I knew nobody there so it was hard, but I felt like he would be more reliable. I never saw the apartment but asked him to check for me that it was walkable to my job. He told me he would check and that it was walkable. Turns out he never checked, and when I arrived there, the apartment was next to a major highway, very dangerous to cross, many homeless people, and still about a 20-minute walk to my workplace. In Texas this isn't doable. Also due to the weather I ended up having to spend a lot of money per month Ubering to work. He at first agreed to drop me to work in the morning as it's only a 4-minute drive, but then complained about dropping me to work saying it was interfering with his job, so I was paying about $300 a month in Ubers when this could have been avoided if we moved into the other apartment I mentioned that was only a 5-minute walk from my workplace. But he didn't want to live in that apartment because it was on a less convenient side of the highway. Basically because we were having so many issues living together, I ended up getting a different remote job and moving out. We were living together even for a bit while both working remote, but ran into a lot of issues taking meetings simultaneously and with the cat interrupting us working, trying to keep her in the other room while working as we lived in a 1-bedroom. He would often complain about having to drop me off, pick me up from places since I don't have a car, like a dance workshop 15 minutes away once every week, for example. I told him I feel like as a partner he could be more reliable and that I'm not asking for much for him to pick me up, drop me off somewhere like once a week if it's close by. He in general does a lot more driving to go see his friends or go out whenever he wants to. The last time I visited him I asked him if he could clean his apartment before I arrived so it wouldn't be dirt. Uncomfortable for me, since we are now doing $5,050 on all the dates. He promised me he would clean his apartment before I arrive and still didn't end up cleaning it at all. To be petty, while I was there I decided to not do any cleaning this time because I felt very unappreciated. When I tell you the deep cleaning of his apartment only gets done when I visit, I mean it, even though I don't even live there. His car was also disgusting and he didn't even get that cleaned before I visited. I literally sat in a pile of trash in the passenger seat of his Tesla anytime we would go somewhere. Another thing that bothered me is his lack of hygiene. Doesn't wash his hairbeard very often. Meanwhile I always make sure to be clean and look my best. I did my hair before visiting him and paid myself to get my nails done. I always dress up very nice and look my absolute best for our dates. Literally a few days right after I left his place to fly back home after visiting him, he got a haircut and I expressed how I would have appreciated him putting that effort into his appearance when I visit him because I feel like I put a lot more effort into mine. Like, can't he at least get a haircut if he knows I will be visiting? I told him the same way I get my nails done consistently, I would like him to be consistent in getting haircuts, taking care of his appearance. On August 1st I 26F told my boyfriend 27M it was National Girlfriend Day. It was around 2 p.m. I didn't expect him to remember, but for context we have been together almost 2 years, so this is something we already were together for. Last year he had gotten us a nice hotel, bought me food, flowers and posted mine on his Instagram story last year. I was trying to throw a hint I wanted him to do something nice for me. This year, after I reminded him, he said don't worry and he'll surprise me. He also said he would pay for my lunch. We are long distance at the moment and he is traveling. He ordered me a nice bouquet which I told him I appreciated very much. I told him what I got for lunch later in the day, but he never ended up paying for my lunch even though he mentioned he would. He also did not post me on his story this year. I am a content creator, so social media is more important to me than him. He doesn't use it much, but in the past we've had conversations and I've told him that him posting me makes me feel appreciated and I would like him to do it because he used to post me more on his story and he stopped. Again, he said he would do it more, but whenever he has had the opportunity he hasn't done it on his own. Today, I called him and told him how lately I have felt like he is not pulling his weight in the relationship. I don't even mind going $5,050 on dates and stuff, but emotionally I haven't felt his presence. I will admit I was a bit upset, but I tried my best to communicate how I was feeling, saying it would have been nice if he posted me for National Girlfriend Day or remembered on his own without me having to remind him. Even if he didn't get me anything, him remembering posting me would have meant a lot to me. I also mentioned he said he would do something, pay for my lunch, and didn't end up doing it. He bought me flowers, so I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but I felt like I should still be able to communicate how I feel. There is probably a deeper issue, so it's not this alone. Usually when I say I'll do something or make a promise, I do it. So for me, it bothers me when people say they will do things and don't fully commit to it. I feel like they just should have said it to begin with then. He does this a lot where he'll say he's going to do something and he forgets. Anyways, sorry this is so long. I don't mean to rant or complain as I do care for my partner very much, but I can't help but feel like he isn't putting as much effort into the relationship anymore or prioritizing me. Am I asking for too much? Are my expectations of this relationship too high? Am I please be brutally honest with me lol.